This week, the Cleveland Browns are taking on the Tennessee Titans, and a lot of people don't have a lot of energy around this football game. But in this episode of the Ultimate Browns, I'm going to tell you why this is a pivotal game for more than one reason. Not just the quarterback, not just the general manager, not just the head coach. It's for everybody involved in the organization. We'll tell you why coming up on the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports right here on the Ultimate Browns. Welcome on into the Ultimate Browns. It's your host, G. Bush. Glad to be back with you on Ultimate Browns. We usually do this on Tuesday. I had some things going on in the family. Thank you for all the prayers and thoughts that went out to me. We appreciate you. Glad to be back here with you on Ultimate Browns. We got a great show planned for you as always. Is Kevin Stefanski safe? I'm going to tell you why that's up in the air, man. There's some opportunities here late in the season, and I actually think Kevin Stefanski could possibly save his job. I'll tell you the details and how I think that could come about. Also, when we talk about Kevin Stefanski, we got to get to Andrew Berry. As Andrew Berry said, I think he has a little bit better chance to stay than Kevin Stefanski. I'll tell you why. The three reasons I believe that Andrew Berry right now is safe in the bullpen when it comes to keeping his job security. But first and foremost, we got to get to why the Browns against the Titans is actually a big-time football game for a lot of different reasons. Draft order comes up. Whether or not you're going to be able to save your job. Is Shedeur Sanders a guy that's going to be able to get the runway we talked about a little bit on UCSS to next year? There's a lot of things up in the air, and I'm going to tell you why Jimmy Haslam has not made any decisions written in stone right now. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you follow the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using Prize Picks during both football and NBA tip-offs. It keeps me on track of every single game. You can even follow your favorite players like Shedeur Sanders or Donovan Mitchell, both on the NFL and the NBA side of things. If one of my players leave early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code word LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code word LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back on into the Ultimate Browns. Let's get right off into this thing. Listen, this game against the Titans, it's 2 bad teams. It's 2 bad teams looking to joust for positioning in terms of who's going to get the number 1 overall pick. Now, let's start with that first and foremost. I'm going to just say this right now. I got the Cleveland Browns winning this football game. I've already said it in multiple places and multiple platforms. I got the Browns winning this football game. First and foremost, the Browns defense is going to be the best unit on the field. That's something that we all know. You look at Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. That's a game in which we looked at it that was billed as the number 1 versus the number 2 quarterback. When you go back and look at in terms of what happened in the draft, most people have Cam Ward and most people have Shedeur Sanders, even though Shedeur Sanders fell to the 5th. They had those as the top 2 names that we heard and heard about going back into the combine, going back into the pro days, and going back into the last off season. Those were the 2 big names coming out. Now, when you look at this, here's why it's important. I think that we got to understand and come to the conclusion that Jimmy Haslam has not had anything guaranteed or written in stone here. This game is more important than you know, not only because if the Cleveland Browns win, we talked about this on UCSS, if they beat the Titans, they have a chance, the betting odds or the odds are about a 12% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. If they beat the Titans, they have less than a 1% chance in getting the number 1 overall pick. Now, let's talk about what that means for what you're looking at in terms of quarterback. Because the thought process is this week is a very pivotal weekend because the Indiana Hoosiers or going against the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship. And one, Fernando Mendoza is the quarterback. Right now, he's the leader in the clubhouse. Most scouts would have him and Ty Simpson as either number one. You could throw Dante Moore from Oregon into that. Ty Simpson from Alabama. But right now, most people have Fernando Mendoza as the number one quarterback. Now, he's going against an Ohio State defense that is legit. They got first-round picks and future NFL players all over that defense. And so what you're going to need to see is if Fernando Mendoza can come out here and do what he can do against those guys. If he comes out and he balls out, then he's going to be a guy that is going to be listed as the number one overall pick. Now, obviously, the Titans are a team that just took Cam Ward in this draft a year ago, and I would be shocked if they moved off to him now. But here's the thing. Zach Jackson was on, and we saw the same thing happen a couple of years ago. Josh Rosen was a guy that they took in the top 10, but the next year, Kyler Murray came out, and guess what? They moved on from Josh Rosen, and they got Kyler Murray. The way that this money is set up, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody falls in love. And by the way, the coach has already gotten fired. Coaches already got fired. They got a new organization, a new regime coming in. And so if they want their guy, they're probably going to be able to go get him. But here's the point. It's not necessarily about that. It's what it looks like. I asked this question earlier. You got Shedeur Sanders right now. You got him, and he's playing. He's probably going to get the rest of the season to show what he can do. If you got a game where you are now with Cam Ward and you get an opportunity to see Cam Ward up close and personal, and you see Shedeur Sanders up close and personal, if Shedeur Sanders comes out here and plays well, I think I have him throwing for 270 something in a couple touchdowns with a win. If he comes out here and outduels Cam Ward in this matchup, now granted, I get it. The Cleveland Browns defense is much more formidable than the Titans defense. So if Cam Ward does not, play well, I wouldn't be surprised by that. But the thought process is this. You got Jimmy Haslam and you got Andrew Berry in the front office. They're looking at Cam Ward and saying, okay, well, he's the number one overall pick. I want to see what the eye test look like. I want to see what he looks like compared to Shedeur Sanders. And you don't get it's not an apples to apples, oranges to oranges comparison. But if you look at it and you come out and you look at the numbers, and you look at the accuracy, if you look at some of the things in the way he's able to move the football, you look at some of the things that he may be able to do. And if he comes out here and looks better than Cam Ward, you may have the owner and the general manager saying, well, hold on now. Well, I'm looking at Jackson Dart, and he's had some ups and downs. I'm looking at Cam Ward, and he hasn't, lit the world on fire. So if you're looking at Shedeur Sanders, then he comes out here and he looks like the light bulb is going off a little bit. He doesn't look like he's swimming, and it looks like he's progressing and taking some steps forward. That's a very important evaluation. See, a lot of people have moved in, and I get it. This last week, a lot of people have been moving around. I know I've been going. A lot of people have moved this thing where it's like, oh my gosh, he played terrible last week. If anybody watched that game, the reason why the Cleveland Browns lost that football game was not due to Shedeur Sanders. It was due to the special teams and the situations they put him in and looking at that football game. We all saw that. So now you get an opportunity in this football game to show, okay, well, if Cam Ward was the number one overall pick, let's see what he looks like. And Cam Ward has received all first-team reps. He's been a guy from Jump Street. But if you're Shedeur Sanders and you can come out here and look better than Cam Ward, get a victory, and show progress that you're throwing the football downfield, some of the timing issues with Jerry Jeudy are fixed, and the Cleveland Browns put up some points this week, that's going to help you out a lot. That's very pivotal because I hear people say it all the time. Oh, the Cleveland Browns are going to draft a quarterback. That's not necessarily true. Oh, the Cleveland Browns are firing Andrew Berry. That's not necessarily true. We'll talk about it later on. I don't even think it's necessarily true that they're going to fire Kevin Stefanski. I think everything is on the board still. In these last 4 or 5 weeks for fans, because they're not in the playoff chase and it's cold outside, we may tune out a little bit, but Cleveland Browns are making evaluations each and every single day. Because if you think about it, if Mendoza is the number one overall pick, do you know what the King's ransom is to go up and get him? All this noise, I don't understand. We be having revisionist history a lot. We be forgetting If there is 1 and 2 quarterbacks that are bona fide number 1 and number 2, and you don't have the first pick, let's stop acting like you can just go up there and chill out and just get whoever with these 3rd round picks or picks. No, it's going to take the 2 you got, and it's going to take probably another one next year. Come on now. This is wild work. Listen, I leave a week and all of a sudden people is just confused. Let me just tell you this. If there's a number 1 quarterback on the board and he's number 1 and the Browns beat the Titans, they're not getting the first pick. And that Jaguars pick is low. That boy is looking worse every single week if they keep winning. The thought process that you can get him with those 2 picks and then maybe a 2 or a 3 is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Let me just tell you this as well. Let me just throw this out at you. If you can't get the number 1 quarterback you want, first and foremost, I'm not even taking no quarterback anyway. I didn't already told you what I'm doing. It makes no apparent, it makes no sense that people is talking quarterback. Let's just keep it a buck. I just need people to understand what you're telling me. You're telling me that you are willing to pass, you're willing to take your first 2 picks, right? And I just had Zach Jackson on. You're willing to take those picks and grab another quarterback. You have Dylan Gabriel, a 3rd round pick. Shedeur Sanders, a 5th round pick. And Deshaun Watson, who is an $80 million cap hit if you try to get rid of him. You already have 3 of those dudes on the roster. But you're going to take all of your assets, not just these years, these assets. You're going to take the assets from this year and some next year to go get a quarterback, and you don't have 1 offensive lineman under contract. You just benched Wyatt Teller. Does that sound like they're going to give Wyatt Teller a contract to come back next year? You don't have anybody under contract. You just talked about how your receiving core is not what it is. Cedric Tillman, again, Minimoski. We just went in detail about what Jerry Jeudy is doing all this year. So you didn't mean to tell me that you're going to bring in another quarterback, use those resources that you can have to get a receiver or 1 lineman. You still need 4 or 5 of them. But you're telling me we're not doing that because what? Because you want to get Fernando Mendoza and put him on a roster? Now you got 4 quarterbacks. 4 again, another 4. Take Shedeur Sanders out the mix. Take Dylan Gabriel out the mix. Just understand what y'all are advocating. You're advocating on running it. The essential part of what you're saying is we are running it back, but we're just going to add another quarterback and do another quarterback competition? Because he's not going to start day 1. And if he does start day 1, guess what? Your offensive line actually is worse because you don't have anybody signed. Your receiving core is the exact same thing. So you meaning to tell me I thought Insanity was doing the same thing over expecting a different result. So now you're going to have 4 quarterbacks in a 4 quarterback challenge next year with the same receivers? Why would any coach do that? That leads me to my front office question and coach question. Why would any coach run that back and then say, oh, well, the Cleveland Browns, you might win. Zach Jackson talks about this. You may not, you got 16 people starting as rookies. You might have 20-something starting next year that's rookies. Who survives that? Stop. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab this lineman. We're going to grab as many receivers as we can. We're going to bolster this line, and we're going to run it back with this same Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and Deshaun Watson, and we're going to see what we got. If ain't nothing shaking after that, we will go to 2027 and look for some picks. But it's wild work to think that you about to come out here and package all them picks together and then essentially have a worse offensive line in the same receiving core. Come on, fellas. This is, you tell me I'm the Duke of New York. You tell me all the time I'm out here. Are you serious? We've been talking about with the receiving core for years, for 3 years in a row running. So if Mendoza, so you telling me that Mendoza is that cold that he could have a worse offensive line and the same receiving core and the Cleveland Browns will be a better team next year, I'll shake your hand if he is, bro. I think he's a good ball player. But at the end of the day, invest in what you got. Invest in what you're doing. Now, Shedeur Sanders has to do his part. He got to show growth. He got to show what it is. But you're going to be hard-pressed. If these guys are struggling, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a guy with that skill set, with that talent, that is shown the ability to be able to throw the football. And you want – stop. We're not going to do that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. But let's talk about another reason this game is pivotal. We talked about the quarterback position. If Shedeur Sanders can come out here and show what he can do, you put yourself in a situation where now you make them say, well, look, man, I seen him play against Cam Ward. I seen him do listen, he came on the last 4 or 5 games of the year. I like what he's doing. But now let's talk about Andrew Berry. At one point in time, I used to think that Andrew Berry and Stefanski was gone. And then this happened. We'll come back and talk about it. You're listening to the Ultimate Browns right here on the UCSS Network. Give big this year with a Home for the Holidays raffle. You have a chance to win a beautiful new home or cash prize this holiday season and help make the wishes come true for Make-A-Wish kids with critical illnesses. Raffle proceeds benefit Make-A-Wish OKI, which has granted over 22,000 wishes to children facing critical illnesses across Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana region since 1983. This year's house is a custom-built ranch by Petros Homes and has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a 3-car garage. It also includes amazing features like a great room with vaulted ceilings and extends to the outdoors, an unbelievable kitchen with beautiful finishes and large hidden pantry, a mud room with open lockers and unique pet shower station. One lucky winner will be announced on December 24th. So get your $100 ticket now. Just visit homefortheholidays.org to buy your tickets. That's homefortheholidays.org. Terms and conditions will apply. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes of the sports. It's G. Bush back with you. Make sure you check us out every single day, Monday through Friday, right here on the UCSS Network, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We do it big. You know who it is. We ain't got to tell you who on the show. It's jam-packed. Let's get to it. Now, Andrew Berry, I've been critical of his drafts. Before these drafts is terrible. Before this draft that he had was nasty work. Defensive lineman misses, receiver misses, offensive line missed. I mean, he had some of the worst draft classes. We've all talked about it, but let me tell you something. They move on from DePodesta, and Andrew Berry has a draft class in which he looks like he's going to have the defensive rookie of the year in Carson Schwarzenegger, and nobody heard from him. No one heard of this guy. When they said they're taking Carson Schwarzenegger, I'm like, who is this dude? Schwarzenegger? No one knows who this is. And all he's done is come out and be one of the best linebackers, not only rookies, but linebackers, period, in the league. Quinshon Judkins is your best offensive player. Harold Fannin Jr. Listen, there was a top 10 list of the top 10 draft picks that came out, and they got Loveland as being the best tight end. Harold Fannin Jr. is beating him in targets, receptions, and yards. Like, Harold Fannin Jr. is one of those dudes right now. And then you take a look at some of the things like Mason Graham. Mason Graham has played his tail off the last 4 weeks. He's trending in a direction. This draft class is legit. And if Shedeur Sanders can do anything and put himself in a position where he's showing progress and throwing the football and getting some wins, you look at an opportunity where, look, the Cleveland Browns now have a beautiful draft class. And they got guys that are promising and contributing at a high level, and they're rookies. Some of the best players that they have are rookies. So when you look at it, and a lot of people say, well, it's the draft class before. It's the draft classes before. And listen, I'm not absolving him. Like, to me, to be truthful, if they jumped up and down and screamed and yelled and said that they needed to get rid of Andrew Berry, I wouldn't trip too much, because there is some things that some areas that he's had some blind spots and misses. But let me tell you why I think he's safe. I'm going to give you 3 reasons. First and foremost is, I don't believe you get rid of DePodesta if you didn't have somebody that was there available. People always talk about, well, DePodesta is moving. DePodesta's gone. Where we always talk about you can't fire somebody. This first thing we say with Stefanski, can't fire somebody until you tell me who you getting to replace him. Who you got to replace him? Can't just fire somebody. You guys want to fire everybody. Who's replacing them? Let me tell you what. They wouldn't have fired DePodesta if they was not comfortable with the dude taking over. I'm a firm believer that this draft class that he had made DePodesta expendable. I'm going to tell you that. I'm telling you that right now. So you can look at it and say, well, DePodesta could be the first domino in guys moving. No, because I think what you look at is if you got rid of DePodesta and you got rid of Andrew Berry and you got rid of Kevin Stefanski, that leaves D and Jimmy Haslam by themselves trying to figure it out. What are you going to run analytics? Is your scouting department gone? What are you looking to do? The biggest decision in the world right now is at quarterback. You done already said the Deshaun Watson thing was a thing that everybody was in on, and it was aired by you, and you swung and missed. So you mean to tell me you want to go into the offseason and get everybody gone? I wouldn't have a problem with it, but your track record doesn't say that you have a Rolodex full of people ready to go that you're ready to interview right now. And the biggest thing that you're doing with a rebuild is this. To have a rebuild, you need to have a philosophy. You need to have guys identified, and you got to have hits. And the one thing that they have so far is hits. If I'm going into a draft and I got 2 first-round draft picks, right, and Andrew Berry has hit on a multitude of picks, I want to give the guy who had a great opportunity and did some big-time things in the last draft, why would I not give him another bite at the apple? When you can go in and you can lay on the desk and say, I got Schlesinger, I got Mason Graham. I also made the trade that got Mason Graham and got me 2 picks. Not only do I have Quinshon Judkins and not only do I have Harold Fanning Jr., but listen, I may have the quarterback, and if he plays well enough, I may have found you a quarterback that you can evaluate and at least get to a point where you give him an evaluation in 2026. Why would I start over with people I don't know? He's performed more recently better than the other guys who were up for debate. At one point in time, it was Kevin Stefanski who had that cachet, remember? He was a 2-time coach of the year, and he went with 5 different quarterbacks. He went to the playoffs, right? After that year, Kevin Stefanski had the leeway. He had the leverage. But now you've had 2 years back-to-back, and no quarterback has looked good under you. So the reality of the situation is I don't think it's not even that crazy of a reach to say that Andrew Berry, he got the control right now. Like, when I see Andrew Berry and they taking pictures, he up there with JW and Jimmy Haslam, I show him in Vegas, they seem kind of chummy up there. Does it seem like a person is getting fired when he didn't come out and have to speak during the bye week? Does it seem like a person who just traded Joe? Like, it don't seem like he fazed by a lot of stuff right now. To me, I look at what you've done lately and moving in a direction where you are trying to do a controlled rebuild. The most important person in a controlled rebuild is the guy picking the players. Now, if the players this year was bad, nasty work, and guys didn't have no promise, I would say Andrew Berry might be on the way out too. But his best players have been durable, young. Yes, signed Myles Garrett to come back, and that even paid off. Think about it. He about to break the sack record. He went and mended that relationship and brought him back into the fold. He got Denzel Ward re-signed, right? Grant Delpit, Devin Bush are having great years. Grant Delpit is NFL Man of the Year. He could go into Jimmy Haslam and say, listen, I got the defense solid. Give me 1 more year to get this offense together. I'm telling you, the rest of the season is pivotal. Guys got to put the work in, and guys got to do it and have production. But as far as I see it, Andrew Berry is not a dude that's in any contention of getting fired. I just don't see the firing of Andrew Berry. Now, Kevin Stefanski, That's a whole nother story. We'll come back and talk about that. You're listening to the fastest 30 minutes in sports. It's your boy G. Bush right here on the Ultimate Browns. Don't forget, coming up Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here on the UCSS network, streaming simulcastly on the Barbershop network is G. Bush himself on the Barbershop. We get to it. We'll talk about it. We'll get to all your questions, man. We appreciate y'all pulling up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never know and you never miss any of our content that we drop in each and every week. Make sure you check us out. G. Bush right here, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning right here on the Barbershop. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes in sports. G. Bush back at it. We talked about Shedeur Sanders. First break, what he needs to do, pivotal. Come out here and show something. Got to show something. I think he does. I got him for 278, 2 scores, 2 touchdowns, and the Browns win this game, 27-10. Let me know if you agree with me. I think the light bulb comes on for him this week. And Jerry Jeudy. I got Jerry Jeudy going over 100 yards. Kind of crazy, right? Come on, Jerry. Don't you disappoint me. Let me know in the comment section what you think about that. But Kevin Stefanski. Now, juxtapose what we talked about with Andrew Berry. You're only as good as your last moves. And Kevin Stefanski, the things working against him is this. You gave your playbook up 2 years in a row. And if you're Andrew Berry, and if you're Jimmy Haslam, the problem that's hurting him is this. When you give up your playbook 2 years in a row, yeah, we talked about it. Deshaun Watson wasn't good while he was here. But let's keep it a buck. Was Joe Flacco good? Was Dylan Gabriel good? Baker Mayfield, was he elite? When you have to give up your playbook 2 years in a row and you hamstring Ken Dorsey and now you've done it again to Tommy Rees, that's on you, bro. You can't keep having coordinators take over your playbook and get fired for it. Even Alex Van Pelt didn't run his own playbook. This is your playbook. And when the offense has been that bad, just because you hand it off does not mean that you get some sort of pass. That's what's working against Kevin Stefanski. Is the offense is old, it's stale, it's outdated, and it's one of the most anemic in the game. Now, for years when you were the coach of the year, you could say it was because I didn't have the talent at quarterback. But then we started to see, well, hold on. I see Flacco do this. I see Baker doing this. Was it really Deshaun Watson? I know he was bad, but come on. Like, a lot of people in your offense look the same way. Now, the reality of it is, I kind of find it weird a little bit. It's not a conspiracy theory. I think it's called updating your resume. You know, it's a lot of people. I use the analogy on UCSS. When you're walking around and you read the tea leaves at work, maybe it's a merger. Maybe you get a new boss that wants to bring in their guy. But either way it goes, they downsizing. Either way, it's called updating that LinkedIn. It's called updating that Indeed profile. It's sending out little feelers in the community, feelers around in the neighborhood. Hey. You know, I'm thinking I might be wanting to go from radio to television. I'm thinking about doing some television to radio. I'm thinking about radio to podcast, maybe podcast to little journal. You know, I might want to write for it. Everybody is putting it in. You putting out feelers. We all got people. Oh, I got a couple of people over there. I got a couple of people over here. You know what I'm saying? A couple of people know my work. And it should shock anybody that guys like Dan Orlovsky or Albert Breer or guys that's rounding NFL networks, if that's their mans, that's their guy, they're going to stick up for him. They're going to put out the articles. They're going to say, hey, Kevin, if he get fired today, he going to get him a job tomorrow. And maybe a team says, you know what? Keep that in mind. We want a coordinator position. I think Kevin got a raw deal. Let's bring him in for an interview. Let's bring Kevin in and put him on a name of guys that we might be interested in. It could be offensive coordinator. It could be head coach. It could be any of those things. He could sit out of here. But the reality of the situation is this. Just because, you know, he may get a job elsewhere does not mean it's not time for him to go here. Just because you get a job somewhere else and it may be a better fit and you may even be successful does not mean that you could be successful here. And the thing that I think Kevin Stefanski struggles with the most is, hey, it's just not your offense. You are in control of the offense. But also you keep hiring special teams coaches that can't get that done. The only thing that's been consistent is the defense. And here's another thing. I think he needs to sit down a little bit for a year and figure out what he wants to do and how he wants to go about the other part of the business. It's just not you calling plays. It's not just X's and O's. It's just not, he needs to learn how to communicate with the media and his players better. Because I think one of his blind spots is he does not do a good enough job of understanding how to motivate people, talk to players, and understand what's going on. Half the stuff he brings on himself is him not talking, him not communicating, him not setting what the expectations are, not speaking for himself. Don't let other people talk for you. Don't leave a vacuum, a void of communication out there so people fill in the dots where they want to. Speak for yourself, Kev. Speak for what you want to stand on. And a lot of times I think there's, whether you handle the quarterback situation or accountability or a lot of different things, it just seems like this stuff is coming out of nowhere. And you don't give yourself an opportunity to speak through the media, use the media, use your relationship with players to get the most out of it. So for me, can Kevin Stefanski save his job? In these last 4 or 5 games, ironically, even though I would move on from Kevin, I still think he has the ability to save his job. The question I have is, does he really want to? Because sometimes when you're in a situation that's run its course both ways. Kevin Stefanski just signed a contract a couple years ago. He got all the money in the world. His family is secure. Trust me, he'll be smart with his money. He's an Ivy League guy. But maybe it's to a point where he's like, look, man, I feel like I got a raw deal. I'm losing a little bit of control here. I don't know if I can find the quarterback that I want to, because he made his bet on Dylan Gabriel. And it looks like the organization is going to give Shedeur Sanders every opportunity to keep pushing. So my thing is, even if he stays here, is he going to have the leverage to say, I want a quarterback? Do they stay with Shedeur Sanders and just build around him for a year and then figure it out later? Or if he's here, would he want his playbook back? Or are they going to force it off as a coordinator? All these things are very interesting, and I think these things that we got to take in consideration with, because those are the things that are really going to really play a role in whether or not he's going to be coming back. Maybe if they were seeing eye to eye on some of the same pages, he would come back. But to me, I just don't. Not only I don't think that the organization. With all the other stuff that I'm hearing and how many people are coming out saying he'll get a job tomorrow or he'll get this or he'll get that, that tells me one thing. He's looking to get that resume updated. And guess what? It might be a situation where he might want to leave and go somewhere else and sit out a year and find his opportune time and just go ahead and learn and figure it out and take a year off like Vrabel did. At either rate, if I had to put my finger on the situation, I think that there's a greater chance that Andrew Berry is back with the Cleveland Browns in 2026 rather than Kevin Stefanski. But would I be surprised if both of them stayed? No, because sometimes I just think Jimmy Haslam is like, look, maybe I don't want to pick new guys. Maybe I don't want to deal with finding out with new people. We'll just figure out how he feels about Kevin Stefanski and what that relationship is. But you let me know. Put it in the comment section. Do you think Andrew Berry is back? Do you think Kevin Stefanski is back? Or both of them? Why or why not? Put it in the comment section, and we appreciate you. With that being said, you never know where G. Bush might show up, radio, television, or internet. But if you want the fresh cut on sports, I keep the Clippers with me. Don't play with me. Have a great rest of your evening. And as always, like I always tell you, I be talking about them all the time, but as always, go Browns.